My wife always despised me for being a live-in husband. So, on the 5th anniversary of our marriage, I received a message from her young assistant, a digital copy of a positive pregnancy report. The grainy ultrasound image of that tiny unformed life felt like a frigid mocking seal of doom, stamped onto the final chapter of our 5-year union. I stared at my phone screen for an eternity, until my eyes burned with a dull ache, before my stiff fingers finally forced themselves to move. I sent a calm, steady text to Lee Ching-hee, "Let's get a divorce." The moment the message was sent, a wave of bitter irony washed over me. 5 years of marriage ended by just 4 simple words. The phone erupted into a ring almost instantly. The caller ID displayed Chubai Lee, the fresh-faced little assistant who had been by Lee Ching-hee's side for barely 6 months. I pressed answer, and his feigned, pitiful whimpering spilled through the receiver. "Brother Ming-xuan, please don't be angry anymore. Sister Ching-hee didn't do it on purpose. She's under so much pressure at work. I was only trying to help her relieve some stress. Please try to understand Sister Ching-hee. It's all my fault, really." Relieving stress by crawling into her bed. Before I could utter a single word, Lee Ching-hee's voice echoed from the other end. It was a tender, soothing tone I had never heard before. And it wasn't directed at me. "Sweetie, don't cry. There's no need to care what he thinks. He's just a pathetic live-in husband. If he leaves me, where else could he possibly go?" It felt as if a jagged hand had reached in and crushed my heart. The pain so sharp it stole the breath from my lungs. A pathetic live-in husband. So for all these 5 long years, that was the only label I ever held in her heart. I didn't argue. I simply hung up the phone in total silence. Outside, the sky began to bleed into a deep, somber twilight. I sat motionless on the living room sofa, surveying the home I had inhabited for 5 years. Every single piece of furniture had been handpicked to satisfy Lee Ching-hee's whims. Every corner was decorated to cater to her specific aesthetic. I was nothing more than a parasite, walking on eggshells just to exist within his space, naively believing this was actually our shared sanctuary. A familiar sharp spasm suddenly tore through my stomach. I fumbled through the drawer for my gastric medication, choking down 2 pills with a swig of ice-cold water. But this time, the agony was exceptionally stubborn, as if the medicine's potency was being swallowed by a void. The searing pain radiated from my gut, slowly gnawing its way up toward my heart. Clutching my abdomen, I curled into a ball on the bed, my entire body racked with uncontrollable tremors. My gaze inadvertently drifted to the nightstand, where our wedding portrait sat in its frame. In the photo, he was radiant, smiling like a flower in bloom. I had my arm around his waist, my eyes overflowing with a joy I couldn't possibly hide. Back then, I genuinely, wholeheartedly believed that we would remain like that for a lifetime. Looking back now, my innocence was almost pathetic. The waves of pain became increasingly violent. I couldn't tell if it was my stomach failing me, or if my heart was finally shattering. 5 years of marriage, and Lee Ching-hee was carrying his assistant's child. He even gave that man Chubai Lee the green light to come and openly provoke me. At that moment, I couldn't describe the sensation. It was like being in a long, beautiful dream, only to be brutally, violently shaken awake, being told that every second of that dream was a lie. Or like carrying a crushing 1,000-pound burden and trekking for miles upon miles, only to be finally broken by the weight of a single feather. Lee Ching-hee always knew how much I adored children. Throughout these 5 long years, I brought it up countless times, longing for a baby that belonged to just the 2 of us. He always brushed me off with a laundry list of excuses. It would ruin his physique, it would be too uncomfortable, it would derail his career, it would be a massive waste of time. So I waited, and when my parents pressured me, I just smiled and reassured them there was no rush, that we'd wait until Ching-hee was truly ready. When friends poked and prodded, I'd just wave it away, claiming we wanted to enjoy our private world for a few more years. I didn't want to bury him under the weight of expectations, let alone be the reason for his unhappiness. But in my wildest nightmares, I never imagined that while he refused to bear my child, he was perfectly willing to nurture a life for another man. The sheer irony is suffocating. A metallic copper sweetness welled up in my throat, and I erupted into a violent fit of coughing. When I pulled my hand away from my mouth, my palm was stained with a splattering of fresh blood. I stared at that jarring, vivid crimson, and a sudden hysterical laugh escaped my lips. But as the laughter faded, the tears began to fall uncontrollably. I finally understood that a heart truly can shatter, to the point where the body itself begins to revolt. Ultimately, I dragged myself to the hospital. Dr. Ma, who has been managing my chronic gastritis, scowled so hard his brow could crush a stone. "Luo Ming-xuan, how on earth did your condition deteriorate this fast?" He flipped through my medical charts, his voice stern. "These extreme emotional fluctuations are absolute poison for your stomach. You have to get your emotions under control. Otherwise, a perforation will be the least of your worries." I nodded numbly, wearing that same habitual hollow smile. "I understand, doctor. As long as I leave Lee Ching-hee, I'll never have to live like a frantic, insecure madman again, obsessively dissecting his every mood, and begging for the crumbs of his attention and warmth." After the treatment concluded, I wasn't in any rush to head back. That house is saturated with every trace of Lee Ching-hee. Yet there isn't a single corner that belongs to me. I wandered aimlessly through the city streets, eventually coming to a halt in a bustling, crowded plaza. People were streaming past in every direction, mostly in happy, connected pairs. There were parents chasing after their playful kids, silver-haired couples still walking hand in hand, and young lovers lost in their own playful world. Only I stood there utterly alone, like a wandering ghost abandoned by the rest of the world. I slumped onto a park bench, and driven by some morbid impulse, unlocked my phone. I searched for Shubaili's social media profile and tapped on his latest updates, scrolling through every post like a form of self-torture. 2 weeks ago, Lee King-hae claimed he had to go on a business trip. I didn't suspect a thing. Like a dutiful husband, I packed his luggage just as I always did, reminding him to stay safe and be cautious, and to let me know he arrived securely. He just gave an impatient, dismissive grunt and dragged his suitcase away without a single backward glance. During those 2 weeks, he sent me daily updates like clockwork. But the content was always the same: arrived, ate busy, going to bed. And I, like a fool, never once doubted him. I scrolled through over a dozen social media posts, all of them featuring intimate photos with Lee King-hae. There they were, kissing under a coastal sunset, fingers tightly interlaced on a secluded forest path, twirling in each other's arms during the season's first snow. In every single frame, Lee King-hae's smile was so radiant. It was a vibrant glow he had never once shown while with me. The very last post was a pregnancy report uploaded just this morning, captioned 3 months along. Our precious little one. 3 months ago, I was away on business, grinding myself to the bone for a major Lee Group project. For an entire month, I slept in the office and drank until my stomach bled, all just to secure that one critical, make or break contract for the company's survival. I honestly believed I was fighting for our shared future. In reality, I was just paving the way for him and another man's child. My fingers shook so violently I could barely grip my phone. I pulled up my chat window with Lee King-hae, wanting to interrogate him, wanting to explode, wanting to go absolutely scorched earth. But I deleted every word as fast as I typed them. What was there to even ask? The damning evidence was staring me right in the face. Who was I even performing this anger for? He clearly doesn't give a damn. The agony in my chest surged like a tidal wave, threatening to pull me under for good. I looked back at my history with Lee King-hae, those pitifully few chat logs between us, mostly me sending long paragraphs while he replied with 2 words. Then I compared them to his comments on Shubaili's posts, the intimate nicknames, the playful emojis, and that raw, unshielded affection. I suddenly reached my breaking point. I realized some people's hearts are simply permafrost. You offer up your entire soul, and he just watches as you exhaust every drop of passion, treating your absolute devotion as his birthright. Fine, let it be. I powered down my phone and cast my eyes toward the horizon. The dying embers of the sunset stained the clouds a bloody orange. It was gorgeous, but it felt like a tragic finale. It was the perfect metaphor for my last 5 years burning myself out just to keep someone else warm, only to be left as a pile of forgotten ash. But that's okay. New life can bloom even from the cinders. I took a deep, stabilizing breath and stood up, turning my back on the square to head home. Life is too long to stay in this trap. I won't waste another second of my existence on him. Shubaili was Lee King-hae's childhood neighbor, a younger brother, 5 years his junior. According to Lee King-hae, Bailey had spent his youth trailing behind him like a puppy, constantly chirping, "Sister Chinghae, Sister Chinghae." Eventually, the Shu family moved away, and the two lost touch for years, until 6 months ago, when Shubaili applied for a position at the Lee Group and became Lee King-hae's personal assistant. From that moment on, every single corner of Lee King-hae's life was haunted by Shubaili's shadow. He began standing me up constantly because of Bailey. Even on our wedding anniversary, he claimed Bailey was all alone and pitiful in this city, and insisted on dragging him along. My meticulously planned candlelit dinner morphed into an agonizing, awkward 3-person ordeal. I actually confronted Lee King-hae about it. He's your assistant, not a member of our family. But Lee King-hae erupted with more fury than me. Luo Mingxuan, can you stop being so incredibly petty? Bailey is like a blood brother to me. What's so wrong with me looking after him? Back then I actually fell for it. I thought he was just soft-hearted, just someone who valued old bonds. Looking back, I was beyond delusional. What kind of brother gets intimate enough to share a bed and end up pregnant? Swallowing the bitter lump in my throat, I began to pack my belongings. There wasn't much in this house that actually belonged to me. Just a few changes of clothes, some books, a laptop, and that bottle of gastric medicine in the drawer that was nearly empty. I scanned the room, only to realize that every corner was infested with memories of Lee King-hae. The walls were cluttered with framed photos, snapshots of our travels, of us cooking together, and of me blowing out birthday candles. In every single shot, I was grinning like a total fool, thinking I had finally grasped true happiness. Looking at them now, they're nothing but a cruel joke. I ripped every photo down and shoved them into trash bags, 2 massive bags stuffed to the brim. The moment I tossed them into the dumpster, I felt a sudden unexpected wave of relief, as if I had finally shed a crushing burden or stripped away a mask I'd been forced to wear for 5 years. Finally, aside from Li Qinghei's possessions, every trace of my existence had been scrubbed from this house. It's better this way, coming in clean, and leaving without a single string attached. That night, I slept with a peace that caught me off guard. No insomnia, no nightmares. I didn't even spare a thought for Li Qinghei. I suppose letting go isn't quite as agonizing as I had imagined. The next morning, I contacted the lawyer I'd already scouted to draft the divorce settlement. I didn't want a single penny. I was leaving with absolutely nothing. This house was never truly mine to begin with, and all I craved was my freedom. When I returned home with the agreement in hand, the living room lights were uncharacteristically bright. Li Qinghei was perched on the sofa, glaring at me with blatant irritation. Where the hell have you been all morning? If you're tired of living here, you can get lost. For all these years, his way of speaking to me had always been this condescending and arrogant. He never once considered my feelings, nor did he care if his words cut me to the bone. In his eyes, I was likely nothing more than a convenient pawn, a disposable accessory to be summoned and dismissed at will. I cast a brief glance at Li Qinghei. After a 2-week absence, he had indeed filled out a bit. His abdomen was barely noticeable beneath that oversized coat, but his entire being radiated the soft, unmistakable glow of pregnancy. I remained silent, stepping into the kitchen as I always did, to pour him a glass of fresh juice. I knew he suffered from morning sickness, and something sweet and sour would settle his stomach. Li Qinghei took the glass and took a sip, the tension in his brow finally relaxing, as his complexion regained a bit of color. He shot me a sidelong look, his voice indifferent yet sharp. Don't think this little peace offering fixes everything. I still haven't settled the score for that little tantrum you threw last time. A hollow, bitter laugh escaped my throat. A tantrum as if I'd ever dare cross the great young Miss Li. For 5 years, I had navigated this marriage like a minefield, terrified of sparking her royal displeasure. If she was moody, it was my fault. If her work stalled, it was my fault. She'd even find a way to blame me for a rainy day. Once she finished the juice, I pulled the divorce settlement from my bag and handed it over. Li Qinghei reached for it, but her face instantly contorted when she saw the bold heading. She flipped through the pages with frantic speed, a mocking sneer curling her lips. Luo Mingxuan, is this some kind of joke? You're actually willing to leave with absolutely nothing. I met her gaze with total icy composure. You're carrying Xu Beili's child. Isn't it only fair that I clear the path for him? Upon hearing those words, Li Qinghei's knitted brows actually smoothed out, replaced by a look of arrogant realization. Oh, so that's what this is about? Her tone became light and airy, almost bordering on smug satisfaction. Since you've been dying for a kid anyway. The moment this baby is born, can't you just let it call you daddy and be done with it? She said it with such casual audacity, as if expecting me to raise another man's child, was some kind of grand favor bestowed upon me. I curled my lips into a scathing, mocking smirk. You crown me with a green hat and expect me to raise the brat. Li Qinghei, where do you get the sheer audacity? In 5 years of marriage, I had never uttered a single harsh word to Li Qinghei. This was the absolute first. She froze in place, her beautiful eyes widening into dinner plates, her face a mask of pure unadulterated shock. Luo Mingxuan, did you just insult me? Her voice shrilled, trembling with a sense of disbelief. Fine. You're dying to divorce me, aren't you? She lunged to her feet, her exquisite features contorting with savage fury. I can't wait to see what a pathetic loser like you becomes once you're stripped of my protection. With that, she snatched the pen from the coffee table, scribbling her signature across the agreement in a violent scrawl. Then she hurled the documents directly at my chest and stormed out of the room without looking back. The papers fluttered and scattered across the floor, a perfect metaphor for our shattered hollow marriage. I knelt down, gathering them up one by one, my movements slow, deliberate, and methodical. My heart was an ocean of stillness. No rage, no sorrow, not even the euphoric rush of liberation. I just felt that finally it was over. I sat on the sofa, lost in a daze for an eternity, watching the sunlight crawl from the east to the west. Only then did I slowly rise, clutching the signed divorce decree and my pitifully small bag of belongings, to walk away from the home I'd inhabited for 5 years. The second I stepped through that door, I didn't offer a single backward glance. Once upon a time, I truly believed that Li Qinghei and I would be together forever. I was 21 when I first laid eyes on her, still a college student. We were alumni of the same university, meeting for the first time at a campus club event. She was the legendary queen of the finance department, vibrant, flamboyant, and dazzling. She was like a miniature sun. No matter where she went, she effortlessly commanded everyone's attention. When the event groups were being assigned, she proactively strolled right up to me, flashing a smile that was impossibly gentle. Hi, I'm Li Qinghei. I'm really hoping that we can take the lead and win this thing together, senior. In that heartbeat, my pulse thundered like a drum. Later, I discovered the truth. The groupings that day were actually completely random. She was that polite and charming to everyone she met, but I had already fallen into the abyss, completely and utterly beyond saving. I racked my brain just to find excuses to talk to her, showering her with gifts, while cautiously testing the waters of her heart. I was terrified she'd find me too forward, or worse, realize that I wasn't worthy of her. Then a sudden accident allowed me to save her. Honestly, it wasn't even a life or death situation. She was being harassed by some thugs on her way to the dorm, and I happened to pass by charging in to drive them off. I ended up pretty beat up myself. Li Qinghei clung to me, sobbing uncontrollably, telling me how terrified she had been. "Thank you so much, Luo Mingxuan," she whispered. "Let's officially be together." I was ecstatic walking on air, believing this was a divine destiny gifted by heaven. Looking back at it now, perhaps it was just a fleeting moment of gratitude, or she simply needed a convenient shield to protect her, and I just happened to show up at the right time. For her sake, I walked away from a prestigious study abroad opportunity to stay in this unfamiliar city. For her, I joined the Lee Group, starting from the very bottom of the corporate ladder, grinding alongside her to build her empire. The Lee Group was once teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. It was I who spent endless nights drinking at social dinners, chasing investors and closing high-stakes deals, brutally dragging the company back from the brink of the abyss. It was during that hellish period that I developed this chronic agonizing stomach condition. I genuinely believe I was pouring my lifeblood into our shared future. I thought she recognized every sacrifice I made. I truly thought we were forever. That youthful love from when I was 21 planted a deep, resilient seed in my heart. I spent 5 long years nurturing that love every single day, watching it sprout from the earth, growing and finally coming into bloom. I never would have imagined that in the end it would be my own hands, tearing out this flower I had poured my lifeblood into. But the roots had already rotted away and the blossoms, no matter how beautiful, couldn't hide the hollow void within. I moved my things into a temporary hotel room and quickly secured a small private apartment. It wasn't spacious, but it was pristine and orderly. Most importantly, it belonged entirely to me. Since the divorce was final, I decided to spend the rest of my days living for myself. The very next morning, I headed to the Lee Group to process my official resignation. Over the years, I held the title of special assistant within the company, a fancy-sounding position. But in reality, I was just a utility brick, tossed wherever they needed a gap filled. One single command from Li Qinghei, and I'd have to drop everything instantly, just to go and fix whatever mess she had made. Yet I remember clearly that at the very beginning, I was actually respected within the halls of the Lee Group. The massive projects I secured, the crises I averted, everyone saw my worth back then. So when did it happen? When did everything start to shift? It likely began as Li Qinghei climbed higher and higher, while I remained content to stay firmly in her shadow. Suddenly, everyone began to assume that I only had a career because of her influence, that I was just a gold digger husband, nothing more than a pathetic live-in charity case. After finalizing the paperwork, I carried a modest cardboard box out of the Lee Group headquarters for the last time. The box held the fragments of my personal life, a coffee mug I'd used for ages, a few technical books, and a single, faded photo booth strip from when Li Qinghei and I first met. Back then, we were both so young and green, laughing with a reckless, carefree abandon. I pulled the photo out, ripped it down the middle, and tossed the pieces into a curbside trash can. I had just stepped into my new little sanctuary when Li Qinghei's name flashed on my screen, Luo Mingxuan. "Are you actually serious right now?" His voice seethed with suppressed rage. "Let me tell you something. If you walk out on the Lee Group today, don't you ever dream of crawling back here again. And don't you dare forget, every bit of the lavish life you've enjoyed was gifted by me." A sharp, mocking laugh escaped my lips. A lavish life, walking on eggshells and being on call 24/7. Having a stomach condition so severe it could rupture at any moment. So that's what he considers a good life. Who said anything about coming back? My tone was bone-chillingly calm. Li Qinghei, have you developed amnesia? When the Lee Group was circling the drain years ago, who was it that begged for investors day and night? Who drank until their stomach bled just to secure those contracts? Without me, would you even be sitting there playing the big shot CEO? The other end of the line went dead silent for a few beats. Then Li Qinghei's voice returned even colder than before. "Luo Mingxuan, stop flattering yourself. Those were all my father's connections and networks. What the hell did any of it have to do with you?" My heart turned to ice. But more than that, I felt a strange sense of liberation. So, in his twisted mind, every sacrifice I made was utterly worthless. Fine, let's leave it at that. Leave it at that. I cut him off and hung up the phone immediately. Then I systematically blocked every single way Li Qinghei could reach me. Starting today, I am living strictly for myself. The following days were unexpectedly peaceful. No more agonizing over Li Qinghei and Shubaili's betrayals. No more soul-crushing misery. No more dragging myself to that office to clean up everyone else's pathetic messes. With some savings in the bank and time finally on my side, I could finally breathe until this morning. I was jolted awake by the persistent blare of my ringtone. Li Qinghei had used an unknown number to bypass my block. The moment I picked up, a torrent of verbal abuse exploded through the speaker. "Luo Mingxuan, what kind of childish games are you playing now? That massive project needs to be signed in a few days. Get your pathetic ass back here right now." I pulled the phone away from my ear, waiting for his screeching to die down a bit. before replying with a lazy, indifferent drawl, Li Qinghe were divorced. I've already resigned as well. So what obligation do I have to slave away for you? Luo Mingxuan, Li Qinghe hissed, clearly fuming. Threatening me through gritted teeth. My patience is wearing thin. If you continue to be this stubborn and delusional, don't blame me when I make sure you're blacklisted from this city. But I wasn't falling for his tired act. It wouldn't be long before I left for good. Who would ever care about his hollow threats? And then what? I replied with a chilling indifference, hanging up the phone once again. Late at night, just as I finished getting ready for bed, Li Qinghe's call buzzed through yet again. I instinctively rejected it, but he was relentless, calling over and over without a shred of shame. Finally, I answered with a languid indifference. Immediately, the receiver erupted with Li Qinghe's furious, screeching voice. What is wrong with you? Why the hell weren't you at the meeting today? Without the Li group backing you, you're nothing but a rat scurrying in the gutters. My voice remained flat. I appreciate the concern, CEO Li. I truly didn't know where he got such misplaced confidence. The only reason he fulfilled his father's dying wish and secured his throne today. Who was the one responsible for that? It was me drinking night after night at social gauntlets, snagging every major contract, just to stabilize the very foundation of the Li group. Now that we're over, given the pathetic pittance he called a salary, I could walk into any rival firm tomorrow and command a far more lucrative package. He went silent for a moment, his tone shifting to a calculated, icy detachment. Think carefully. You're the one choosing to walk away. I won't give you a single extra cent in severance. I cut him off. I'm the one who chose to quit. We'll follow the labor contract to the letter. I'll take exactly what I'm owed and not a penny more. Perhaps because my tone was so hauntingly calm, Li Qinghe on the other end began to lose his cool, his words dripping with thinly veiled sarcasm. Luo Mingxuan, you need to wake up and face reality. You aren't some young hotshot anymore. At the end of the day, you've forgotten your place. I took you in, and that's the only reason you have status today. It seems I've spoiled you far too much. It's not too late to regret this and come crawling back. Otherwise, when you're reduced to begging on the streets, don't say I didn't warn you. I let out a dry, mocking laugh and hung up the phone, utterly done with wasting my breath on him. The only person who needs a reality check is him. His vision has always been blinded by his own status, convinced that a little success gives him the right to look down and play judge and jury. Perhaps only when he settles down and truly reflects on how those crucial company deals were actually secured will he finally taste the bitterness of regret. The moment word got out that I had resigned, several of our former rival companies actually started aggressively headhunting me with enticing offers. I chose a firm with a stellar reputation in the industry. The interview process was a total breeze. I cruised through every stage and landed the job effortlessly. The CEO of this company is Ji Shiqin, a legendary powerhouse known for her iron will. On my very first day, she personally showed me around the office. Luo Mingxuan, welcome to the team. I gave her hand a firm, respectful shake. Thank you, CEO Ji, for giving me this shot. I've actually prepared a little welcoming gift for you, and I truly hope it's to your liking. She gave me a subtle wink, her tone laced with a mysterious edge. I felt a sudden wave of surprised appreciation. It wasn't until I joined the project team that I realized exactly what this gift was. It was none other than the massive flagship project that her firm was co-developing with the Li Group, and I had been appointed as the lead director, vested with absolute decision-making power. Once the paperwork was finalized, Ji Shiqin invited me into her private office. You have total autonomy over this entire venture, she stated, leaning back behind her mahogany desk. With her fingers steepled together, her gaze sharp, piercing, and crystal clear. You have the authority to terminate the Li Group partnership, provided you can secure a far superior alternative, one that maximizes our profit margins to the limit. I was completely bewildered. Why? From what I've gathered. Your firm has been allied with Li for years. The roots of your partnership run deep, and things have always been perfectly harmonious. Suddenly cutting ties like this, it just doesn't make any logical sense. Ji Shiqin leaned forward slightly, her aura intensifying. Her fingertips rhythmically tapped the desk, her lips curling into a flawlessly sharp arc. The reason is actually quite elementary. I find that woman Li Qinghe to be utterly intolerable. Is that sufficient justification? I was momentarily speechless. Such a motive felt far too personal and dangerously impulsive for a business deal. But she was the CEO, and her word was absolute law here. But why place so much faith in me? I finally voiced my doubt. Allowing me to parachute into this firm was already a massive exception. But handing such a critical, high-stakes project directly to a discarded pawn of the Li family like me, the risk seems astronomical. Ji Shiqin's playful smirk instantly vanished, replaced by a piercingly sincere gaze that locked onto mine. She spoke each word with deliberate weight. Luo Mingxuan. Li Qinghe is blinded by her own arrogance, but I certainly am not. Her gaze was transparent and unflinching, devoid of any hidden agendas or hollow flattery. The results you achieved during those years at Li Group are common knowledge among the industry elites. The fact that firm survived at all was largely due to your blood and sweat. If she's stupid enough to kick you to the curb for some petty assistant, then her catastrophic loss is my golden opportunity. I trust my instinct for talent, and I believe in your capabilities even more. In that heartbeat, a strange, unfamiliar warmth surged through my chest. It was the long-lost sensation of genuine validation. For years, I had bled myself dry for the Lee group, only for Lee Ching-hee to effortlessly claim all the glory, leaving me with nothing but the insulting label of a live-in loser and a broken body. And now, someone was finally acknowledging my true worth so directly. Thank you, CEOG. 1,000 complex emotions were distilled into those 3 solemn heavy words, Ji Shitin. Let a radiant smile return to her face as she waved me off. Now go out there and kill it. Give me a reason to be amazed. And give yourself the closure you deserve. Stepping out of Ji Shitin's office, I took a deep, revitalizing breath, feeling my chest swelling with a long-forgotten sense of power and anticipation. The tables had finally turned. I went from the one who had to beg for scraps to the high-level executive holding the ultimate veto power. I was to officially start in 3 days, and I felt an uncontrollable urge to dive right in. Late that night, my phone buzzed the moment I got home. It was an unknown number. I answered. It was Xiao Zhang from the Lee Group's HR department, his voice frantic with desperation. Luo, Mr. Luo, it's CEO Lee. She's completely wasted. She's at the Nightfall bar and won't listen to anyone. Could you please come down here? My tone was icy and flat. First of all, I've resigned. I'm not your Mr. Luo. Secondly, if she's drunk, she should call her husband or her assistant. Shubali, but Xiao Zhang stammered. The CEO keeps screaming your name. Assistant Sue is here too, but she won't let him get anywhere near her. I wanted to say it wasn't my problem, but I swallowed the words before they could escape. After a momentary hesitation, I decided to go and see for myself. It wasn't that I was clinging to the past, but Ji Shitin had just entrusted that project to me. Contact with the Lee Group was now inevitable. If Lee Ching-hei made a public spectacle of herself, it would only make the future cleanup more of a headache. I threw on a coat and rushed to the bar. I pushed open the private room door, and a suffocating cloud of alcohol, stale tobacco, and cheap perfume hit me like a physical wall. I grimaced in disgust. By the flickering dim light of the club, I spotted Lee Ching-hei immediately. Tonight, her appearance was a far cry from her usual cold, elegant persona. She was clad in a provocative slip dress, her eyes hazy as she leaned into Xu Beili's embrace. Xu Beili had smudged lipstick stains all over his face. When he saw me enter, he didn't pull away. Instead, he arched an eyebrow at me. His gaze was filled with blatant, unshielded smugness and provocation. He tapped Lee Ching-hei's cheek, his voice low but loud enough for everyone to hear. Babe, your ex-hubby is actually here. Lee Ching-hei looked up at me with a drunken, bleary stare. Then she snuggled back into Shubali's arms like a pampered child. What ex-husband? I only have you. The private room erupted into a chorus of suggestive, mocking snickers. Everyone's collective gaze focused on me like a burning spotlight, pinning me to the spot. Some were gloating. Some were pitying, but most were just thirsty for the drama. I remained expressionless, but the long numbed wounds deep within my heart felt as though they were being scrubbed with coarse salt by this pathetic, degrading scene, triggering a faint yet agonizingly sharp sting. Lee Ching-hei seemed to regain a flicker of lucidity just then. She shoved Xu Beili aside, staggered to her feet with unsteady steps, and marched up to me frowning as she demanded, "What are you doing here? Your HR person called and said you were wasted, asking me to come and fetch you." I replied with a cold, detached brevity. She froze for a second, seemingly trying to process my words through the haze. The alcohol had stripped away her usual razor-sharp edge, leaving her eyes looking dazed under the neon lights, betraying a rare fleeting sense of vulnerability. She took a clumsy lurching step, and as she began to tip over, I instinctively reached out to steady her. Beneath the heavy, suffocating stench of booze, there was the unmistakable scent of a foreign cologne, mixed with the lingering smell of cheap cigarettes. It was Xu Beili's scent. I supported her weight as we moved toward the exit, but the night breeze made her lose consciousness completely. Her car was parked right out front, but I searched her bag and couldn't find the keys. I had to double back to the private room to retrieve them. Just as I reached the entrance, I heard it, Xu Beili's arrogant, smug voice leaking through the door. "See, I told you guys. Even if that pathetic loser shows up, what can he do? Ching-hee's heart still belongs entirely to me." The rest of the crowd chimed in with sycophantic laughter. "Exactly, I've been sick of his pretentious, holier-than-thou act for years. Once Mr. Xu and CEO Lee tie the knot, life's gonna be a breeze for all of us. We won't have to deal with that guy's attitude ever again." I pushed the door open with a face of pure icy stone. The private room instantly plunged into a suffocating silence. Everyone froze in place, their faces twisted in awkward shock. But that shock quickly dissolved into blatant indifference. They didn't believe for a second that they were wrong. They were just annoyed that I'd actually overheard them. I strode directly toward Xu Beili, extending my hand, the car keys. Xu Beili's face flushed a chaotic mix of red and white, before he reluctantly fished the keys from his pocket and tossed them at me. I caught them mid-air, turned to leave, but stopped at the threshold. I looked back and flashed a wide, chilling grin at the room. It was a smile devoid of even a trace of warmth. Please don't let me stop you. Carry on. I slammed the door shut and left. Behind me, a deathly tomb-like silence lingered for several agonizing seconds before Zhu Bailey erupted into a fit of hysterical, frustrated cursing. I got behind the wheel and drove Li Qinghe back to the nest she shared with Zhu Bailey. It was the new luxury apartment she'd snagged right after the divorce. As we entered, she regained a sliver of consciousness and began thrashing around, pushing and shoving me with an absolute refusal to cooperate. My patience finally snapped. I used brute force to scoop her up in a princess carry, planning to just dump her on the bed and be done with it. Right at that moment, her eyes snapped open, staring at me with a predatory intensity. Before I could even process the look, she swung her hand and delivered a stinging slap. Get out! Don't you dare touch me! She shrieked, her voice hoarse. My cheek burned with a searing, fiery pain. I looked down at her for a split second. Then without a hint of hesitation, I simply let go. She let out a sharp yelp as she hit the hardwood floor, curling up in pain. When she finally looked up, her glazed eyes were swimming with rage and utter disbelief. Luo Mingxuan, I looked down at her cold and detached, my voice as flat as a dead heartbeat. Li Qinghe, you were the one who told me to get lost. With that, I turned on my heel and walked out, not bothering to give her a single glance back. I ignored the tearful, muffled curses echoing behind me. That one slap had effectively vaporized the last shred of my pathetic sense of responsibility. The next morning, my phone started vibrating like a ticking time bomb. Unsurprisingly, it was Li Qinghe calling again. The moment I answered, his verbal assault hit me like a physical blow. His voice was thick with congestion. It seemed spending the night on that frigid floor hadn't been a very pleasant experience. Luo Mingxuan, are you even a man? How could you just leave your wasted wife on the floor and walk out? I massaged my temples, countering with a dry, are you finished? He was on the verge of another explosion, but he seemed to forcibly swallow his rage. His tone softened with a rare, uncharacteristic gentleness, laced with a calculated, desperate attempt to charm. I'm sorry, I had way too much to drink last night. It just so happens that in a few days, that high-stakes project requires an on-site inspection. Get everything ready, because you're coming with me. I almost let out a cynical laugh. Li Qinghe, how many times do I have to remind you? We are divorced. I've officially resigned from the Li Group. I have zero obligation to do your dirty work anymore. I didn't authorize that, his voice shrilled, dripping with his usual arrogant tyranny. You initiated the divorce, and you quit without my permission. Nothing is final until I say it is. That sounds like a personal problem. I replied, finished with his circular logic. I cut the call immediately and blacklisted this new number without a second thought. Over the next few days, Li Qinghe rotated through numbers spamming me with calls and texts. I ignored every single one of them, and the world became significantly more peaceful. That was until the weekend, when a business partner hosted a massive gala and invited our entire project team for dinner. The host was pulling out all the stops, booking a prestigious 5-star hotel renowned in the city. But as soon as I reached the entrance, I spotted a bustling crowd clogging the lobby. I recognized far too many familiar faces from the Li Group. Then it hit me. This hotel was a premier property under the Li family's empire, and that critical project signing Li Qinghe mentioned was likely being held right here. Talk about a nightmare reunion. I was debating whether to even step inside when Zhu Bailey appeared out of thin air, blocking my path like a wall. He was dressed up like some second-rate socialite today, clad in a sharp suit and leather shoes. The moment he spotted me, his face twisted into a blatant, scathing sneer. Well, if it isn't our brilliant and capable Mr. Luo. Now that you've been kicked out of the Li Group, are you reduced to begging for scraps at a place like this? I shot him a freezing glare, unwilling to waste a single word, and tried to sidestep him. But Zhu Bailey shifted his weight, blocking my path once again. He lowered his voice, his tone dripping with even more arrogance. Luo Mingxuan, don't push your luck. Qinghe is my woman now. A pathetic loser like you who got tossed out on the street should know his place and beat it. Don't be an eyesore. I halted my steps and turned to face him directly. I let out a dry chuckle. What didn't get enough of a beating at the bar? You itching to try your luck again? Zhu Bailey's face turned pale, and he instinctively recoiled half a step. Getting shoved aside by me at the bar had clearly left him traumatized. But with so many eyes watching, his fear quickly morphed into humiliated rage. Don't you get cocky. This is Li Group territory. Security, the scene he was making started getting loud, drawing the attention of several people in the lobby. I remained perfectly composed, even offering a casual nod to a few former colleagues, as a silent greeting, before heading straight for the elevators. Luo Mingxuan, stop right there. Li Qinghe, her high heels clicking aggressively, came charging toward me. She scanned my plain casual suit. From head to toe, her brow furrowed with pure contempt. You actually showed up to such a major event dressed like this? If you aren't embarrassed, I certainly am. Without waiting for a reply, she turned to her assistant with an order. Take him to a suite upstairs, and find him a decent suit to change into. I swatted away the assistant's reaching hand, finding the situation utterly ridiculous. Li Qinghe, how many times do I have to say it? I have officially resigned. There is absolutely zero connection between us now. I'm here for a private meeting with someone else. I'm not here to play the part of your corporate elite sidekick. So what I wear is none of your damn business. Li Qinghe froze, clearly stunned that I would defy her with such biting resolve. She sneered instinctively. A private meeting here? You're not in that league. To her, a discarded pawn like me should be rotting in poverty, unworthy of even breathing the air in a high-end venue like this. I didn't bother wasting my breath on an explanation, turning my back to head upstairs. But at that exact moment, a booming, enthusiastic voice echoed from the side. Ah, Brother Luo, it's been far too long. I turned to see a middle-aged man with a ruddy face and a confident stride hurrying toward us. It was old Mr. Li, a titan in the industry, the very man Li Qinghe was desperate to sign with today. Mr. Li, good to see you again. I stepped forward to shake his hand, exchanging a few brief cordial pleasantries. Mr. Li suddenly shifted his gaze toward Li Qinghe. His smile remained, but his words carried heavy weight. CEO Li, Brother Luo's character and professional caliber are things I personally vouch for. Regarding today's contract, I'm willing to sign it solely as a favor to Brother Luo. Li Qinghe's face instantly lit up with predatory joy. But Mr. Li's tone took a sharp turn. However, I have one condition. For the entire duration of this project, Brother Luo must be the sole point of contact and lead. I simply don't trust anyone else with this. As soon as Mr. Li finished speaking, it wasn't just me. Even Li Qinghe was rooted to the spot in shock. I immediately waved it off. Mr. Li, this isn't appropriate. I was about to reveal my resignation, but Li Qinghe reached out and viciously pinched my arm. She didn't hold back. She instantly masked her irritation with a sugary professional smile. Mr. Li, please rest assured. That won't be an issue at all. Luo Mingxuan has always been the backbone of our firm. Assigning him to lead this project is only natural. Then she leaned in, hissing a warning directly into my ear through gritted teeth. Luo Mingxuan, you better play along with me. Securing this contract is a win for everyone involved. I let out a cold mocking scoff and violently shook her hand off my arm. Under the bewildered gazes of Mr. Li and the surrounding crowd, I took a decisive step forward, my voice resonating with a clear and steady tone. Mr. Li, I am truly honored by your unwavering trust and favor, but I must offer my sincerest apologies. I will not be participating in this project today, nor will I be collaborating with you on behalf of the Li Group. I pivoted toward Li Qinghe, whose face had instantly drained of all color, turning deathly pale, and addressed everyone in the hall who was eavesdropping. I spoke loudly and firmly, right here. I am officially declaring and clarifying for the record. I have already submitted my resignation to the Li Group and have finalized every single piece of paperwork, both legally and factually. I no longer maintain any employment relationship with them. I paused for a brief, heavy moment, my gaze sweeping over Li Qinghe and the approaching, livid Zhu Bailey, whose expression was pure iron blue rage. I continued, furthermore, the divorce settlement between Miss Li Qinghe and myself has already been signed and is now in full effect. Moving forward, I personally have absolutely nothing to do with Ms. Li Qinghe or any of the business affairs regarding the Li Group. Having said my piece, I turned back to Mr. Li. With a calm, composed smile, my attitude sincere. Mr. Li, I'm sorry to let you down. Due to personal reasons, I simply cannot involve myself in this. However, given your firm's prestige and the Li Group's legacy, I'm certain that even without my presence, both parties can find a path to collaborate. The jovial smile vanished from Mr. Li's face. He glanced at me, then at the utterly devastated and bewildered Li Qinghe, his eyes flickering with a hint of realization and subtle pity. He clapped a hand onto my shoulder, his tone devoid of any real blame. Brother Luo, you're a straight shooter. I understand the situation now. He turned his head, and his tone toward Li Qinghe became noticeably frigid. CEO Li, it seems your company's internal management is quite fascinating. Partnership is built on integrity and stability. But when even the lead of a project can just walk away or be replaced on a whim, he shook his head, leaving the sentence hanging, but the underlying message was devastatingly clear. Zhu Bailey, witnessing the fallout, scrambled forward with a sycophantic grin. Mr. Li, please don't let Luo Mingxuan get to you. He's nothing but an ungrateful, backstabbing traitor. You're investing in the sheer power of the Li Group, and I'm personally heading this project now, so I guarantee. Mr. Li scanned him from head to toe, his gaze as if he were looking at something utterly filthy. A blatant, scathing sneer curled on his lips. A mere little assistant thinks he's in the same league to talk business with me. CEO Li, your firm truly is overflowing with talent. You've got a real sense of humor here. With those parting words, he completely ignored the flushed, humiliated Zhu Bailey and the visibly trembling, shattered Li Qinghe. He signaled to his entourage and swept out of the hotel in a grand, imposing exit. Before leaving, he made a point to shake my hand once more. He lowered his voice. Brother Luo, if you're scouting for a new gig, keep our firm at the top of your list. I will always have a prestigious seat reserved just for you. Thank you for the high regard, Mr. Lee. I offered my sincere gratitude. Once the silhouette of Mr. Lee's team had vanished, the tomb-like silence of the lobby was violently shattered by Li Qinghei's shrill explosion. Luo Mingxuan, you absolute bastard. She completely ripped away her facade of elegant poise, her beautiful features contorting with savage rage and pure humiliation. She swung her hand, aiming a vicious slap right at my face. Do you have any idea how much money the group just lost because of your pathetic stunt? Could you even dream of paying us back? I was already one step ahead. I intercepted her wrist mid-air with an iron grip and coldly shoved her away. Li Qinghei had been pampered and put on a pedestal her entire life. She had never faced such public defiance or physical resistance. The look she gave me was a chaotic cocktail of fury, crushing disappointment, and a flicker of primal panic she hadn't even realized was there. I told you this would happen long ago. My voice was flat and indifferent, as if I were merely stating a fact that had nothing to do with me. I have already resigned. I have zero connection to you or your failing company. This disaster is the direct result of your blind arrogance and your insufferable bullying. How is any of this my problem? You constantly barked that I was a loser and a house husband, claiming I'd be a helpless wreck without you. Now I've given you exactly what you wanted. I'm gone. So why the hell are you still haunting me like an inescapable shadow, chasing me down to force me back into your puppet strings? Wake up, Li Qinghei. I am no longer your property. My words were like freezing needles, bursting the final balloon of her inflated ego. She stumbled back, reeling, only to be caught by the frantic Shu Baili. Her chest heaved with violent breaths, yet she couldn't squeeze out a single word. I was done wasting energy on them. I turned and strode toward the stairs, to head to my own engagement. As the elevator doors began to slide shut, I caught a glimpse through the narrow gap of Li Qinghei still standing there frozen in shock, while Shu Baili hovered around her in a useless panic. The scene was as pathetic as it was hilarious. Inside the private suite, the conversation with my business contact was seamless and engaging, but I felt a twinge of hesitation regarding the specific details. The firm was solid, but moving forward with them would inevitably lead to more corporate face-offs with Li Qinghei. I had no desire to sink back into that endless swamp of drama. Ultimately, I politely declined the host's enthusiastic proposal. Once the dinner concluded, I saw them to their car only to turn around and realize that Li Qinghei actually hadn't left yet. She was sitting alone on a sofa in the corner of the lobby, curled up while Shu Baili knelt beside her. The two seemed locked in a heated, low-voiced argument. Shu Baili's face was flushed with agitation, while Li Qinghei kept her head turned, looking utterly annoyed. I had zero interest in their domestic squabbles. Just as I was about to walk out, Li Qinghei looked up as if sensing my presence, and locked eyes with me. Luo Mingxuan, wait! She bolted upright, sprinting over to grab hold of my sleeve. Her makeup was a smudged mess, her eyes rimmed with red. The haughty arrogance had vanished from her features, replaced by a layer of cheap, manipulative self-pity. Luo Mingxuan, please stop being angry. Just come home with me, okay? Her voice trembled thick with a stifled sob. Didn't we promise to stay together forever? Have you completely forgotten every vow we made? Shu Baili scrambled over as well, his face a mask of artificial pallor, clutching his chest while letting out two weak, forced coughs. It was such a pathetic, over-the-top performance. Sister Qinghei, my heart, it feels so tight and painful. Can you please take me to the hospital right now? A flicker of internal conflict and pure disgust crossed Li Qinghei's eyes. But in the end, she hardened her heart and completely ignored him, turning back to fix her hopeful, desperate gaze on me. Her voice was borderline begging. Luo Mingxuan, I know I messed up. Whatever happened with Shu Baili was a catastrophic mistake. Nothing more than a moment of temporary insanity. Can't you just forgive me, please? Let's just hit the reset button and start over. I stared at her, feeling nothing but a bone-deep, soul-crushing fatigue. This woman was perpetually trapped in the bubble of her own twisted logic. The cheating, the pregnancy, the marriage certificate, all of it was just a joke to her. Even publicly humoring me was a game. And now she expects a hollow, I'm sorry, to magically erase the trauma she inflicted on me, expecting me to revert back to that loyal dog. The Luo Mingxuan she could summon and discard at will. I let out a heavy, weary sigh, my tone cutting like ice. Li Qinghei, have you developed amnesia? You are a woman who already has a brand new husband. Try to remember your status and keep some damn dignity. Just a few days ago, Shu Baili, fueled by some petty malice, had sent photos of their official marriage license to one of my social media accounts that I hadn't managed to deactivate yet. He made sure to tag me directly. That bright crimson seal was an absolute eyesore. Li Qinghei acted as if she hadn't heard a word. Or rather, she selectively filtered out any reality she didn't want to face. She gripped my sleeve with a deathlock, her knuckles turning white from the sheer force of her hold, as she began to ramble incoherently about our history, our fated meeting back during our university days, the bravery I showed when I saved her life, and how we leaned on each other during those early startup years. Those cherished memories used to be my most precious treasures, but hearing them escape her lips now feels like looking through a layer of frosted glass, distorted, blurry, and saturated with a sickening calculated hypocrisy. My patience finally reached its breaking point. I violently recoiled from her touch. Enough. Li Qinghe, I muttered, my voice low, yet packed with a razor-sharp lethal finality that made her entire body shudder. If you've abandoned your dignity, I'd still like to keep mine. I locked eyes with her, enunciating every single word. You're the one who married another man. I stepped aside to let you two have your happy ending. Yet now you're the one obsessively stalking me without cause. What exactly is your endgame here? Do you truly believe the entire world revolves around you, catering to your every whim and desire? My frigid gaze finally forced her to realize that I wasn't playing a game, nor was I just acting out in spite. True panic finally flickered in her eyes. She scrambled for an excuse. No, Luo Mingxuan, that's not it. It's always been you. I've only ever loved you. Su Bailey. He was just a lapse in judgment. If you just say the word, I'll divorce him right now, this very second. I'll end it immediately. Her voice broke into a sob, massive teardrops streaming down her face in a pathetic, sorrowful display. If the version of me from 5 years ago had seen this, my heart would have shattered instantly, and I would have forgiven her without a second thought. But now I felt nothing but a numb, hollow silence, bordering on sheer annoyance. Her tears, her desperate repentance, they didn't stem from a genuine realization of her sins. They were born from the terrifying discovery that the man who always stood faithfully in her shadow, the emotional battery she drained at will, had actually turned his back and walked away for good. She isn't grieving the loss of my love. She's grieving the loss of a possession she fully controlled, an asset she could squander and abuse without consequence. If you actually gave a damn, I said, cutting through her theatrical wailing, my gaze shifting to the man behind her, a dark, brooding, and resentful Shubaili. You should take a look back, and take a good look at your pathetic new husband. It seems he's the one starving for your affection. Li Qinghe remained completely indifferent to him, merely shaking her head in a frenzied, repetitive motion, chanting, no, that's not right. My only husband will ever be you. It has to be you. I couldn't stomach another word of this. If she had uttered even a fraction of this to me in the past, I might have truly risked everything to run back to her. But now I only felt an overwhelming sense of irritation. Spare me the theatrics, I said, drawing a final absolute line between us with chilling resolve. You'd be better off worrying about how to handle the massive breach of contract with Mr. Lee, and how you're going to answer to the board of directors. Blowing a project of this magnitude, your company is about to take a devastating, crippling hit. While she stood there paralyzed in shock once more, I turned on my heel and vanished into the night, never once looking back. The night breeze bit at my face with a sharp chill, yet it brought with it a sensation of unprecedented clarity and weightless liberation. I assumed that after such a public bridge burning, Li Qinghe would finally accept defeat and back off. But I had severely underestimated her toxic obsession. Or perhaps I underestimated the violent rebound of her shattered and bruised ego. I don't know how, but she managed to track down my new private residence, ambushing me right outside the lobby of my apartment. I intended to ignore her and head straight for the elevator. But the moment she spotted me, she looked like a drowning woman seeing a lifeline. She lunged forward desperately, trying to lock me in an embrace. I sidestepped her with ease, my voice cutting like dry ice. Miss Lee, to what do I owe this pleasure? Shit. Li Qinghe looked up at me, her eyes bloodshot and weary, her entire countenance looking utterly haggard. Yet her gaze burned with a disturbing, frantic intensity. I've spent so much time reflecting on everything. My father is temporarily holding things together at the firm Sinjuatinko, so those problems can be dealt with eventually. But you, Luo Mingxuan, you are the only person who truly matters to me. I can't survive without you. I stared back at her in dead silence, wondering just how much of this soul-bearing confession held even a shred of genuine sincerity. How much of it was bitter resentment, and how much was cold calculation. Seeing my silence, he mistook it for a sign of wavering resolve, and crept forward, once again reaching for my hand. Mingxuan, I twisted my ankle searching for you. It hurts so much. I let out a sharp mocking scoff, my gaze shifting toward the shadows under a nearby streetlight. There stood Shu Bailey lurking like a vengeful ghost, his eyes burning with venomous spite as he watched us. Twisted it. Then you should head to the ER or go whimper to your legally wedded husband. I retracted my gaze, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Don't waste your time putting on a tragic romance in front of your ex-husband. Li Qinghe's facade nearly crumbled then and there. He spun around and saw Shu Bailey. The look on his face was as if he'd spotted a pile of filth. He barked with pure annoyance. I told you to stop following me. Are you ever going to quit? The moment he finished screaming, his face shifted instantly. When he turned back to me, he wore that mask of tender, watery affection again. Mingxuan, I've made up my mind. I'm divorcing Shu Bailey immediately. I truly realize my mistakes now. Can't you feel how much I still love you? I fell silent, scrutinizing him with intense precision, searching for even the tiniest microscopic shred of sincerity related to actual love. Unfortunately, I saw only a ravenous desire for possession, the sting of an ego that refused to lose, and a desperate urge to regain control over the situation. Perhaps he once felt a sense of dependency toward me, or a certain level of comfort, but he never possessed a shred of equal, respectful love. The grand young master of the Lee family, used to being the center of the universe with everyone catering to his every whim, could not process the fact that I had left him, even though this betrayal was entirely of his own making. His heart isn't breaking because he lost me. He simply can't stand something escaping his grasp. Your husband is still over there watching us, I said, gesturing towards Shubaili with a tilt of my chin. Shouldn't you go comfort him? After all, you're legally bound certified spouses. This display is a bit inappropriate, don't you think? My sarcasm cut deep like a serrated blade. The tender mask on Lee Ching-hei's face finally fractured, gradually consumed by a dark brooding resentment. She spun around and threw herself into Shubaili's arms, a move that felt like a spiteful, desperate power play. Then she shot me a look that was a toxic cocktail of pure venom and arrogant disdain. Luo Mingxuan, I gave you a chance and you spat on it. So don't you dare blame me for being heartless, she hissed with a piercing voice. You better pray you never come crawling back to beg for my mercy. I simply smiled and shook my head, feeling that even a rebuttal would be a waste of breath. I turned, swiped my keycard, and entered the lobby. As the elevator ascended, it sealed out her curses and that miserable, spiteful pair. Finally, the world was silent and still. The next day at the office, Jishikin summoned me into her private suite. She was clad in a sharp professional white suit, leaning back in her executive chair with a cryptic, playful smirk. I heard that you and your lovely ex-wife put on quite the tragic, unrequited broken mirror melodrama last night. Clearly her intel was remarkably fast. She isn't my ex-wife, I corrected her firmly. She's a total stranger. Jishikin let out a soft, amused chuckle as she rose and glided around the massive mahogany desk, stopping right in front of me. A subtle, cool fragrance drifted from her, intoxicatingly pleasant. Luo Mingxuan, she suddenly spoke, her tone dancing between a playful jest and dead seriousness. How would you feel about being with someone like me? I froze, momentarily convinced I had misheard her. But as I gazed into her slightly upturned eyes, seeing that mischievous yet probing glint, I realized she was at least 50% serious. President G, please stop messing with me, I replied helplessly. I'm not joking, she said, her smile fading into a rare, solemn gravity. The rivalry between me and Lee Ching-hei didn't just start yesterday. The man she threw away is exactly the one I want. And it's not just about wanting you. I want her to watch with her own two eyes, as the person she treated like absolute trash is elevated to unimaginable heights by me, and sees just how far you can truly go. I couldn't help but arch an eyebrow. So, President G actually wants to use me as a tool for revenge. This certainly tracked with the rumors of Jishikin being a capricious and reckless force of nature. Jishikin simply shrugged her shoulders, her tone nonchalant, yet her eyes remained razor sharp. You could look at it that way. However, as a patron, I'm incredibly generous. Name your price, anything you want. Money power. I'd even consider giving you shares in the company. No thanks, I said, cutting her off and standing up. President G, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Jishikin's brow twitched. She crossed her arms, asking, are you actually rejecting me? Luo Mingxuan, even if we put feelings aside, I think you'd agree that in terms of family background, raw talent, or even just physical looks, she tilted her chin up slightly, radiating an innate, unshakable confidence. I'm leagues above Lee Ching-hei, wouldn't you say? This deal is a guaranteed win for you. I honestly can't fathom why you'd turn it down. Her logic was perfectly sound. From a purely mercenary standpoint, hitching my wagon to her would allow me to climb at terminal velocity to a height where Lee Ching-hei and the entire Lee group would be forced to look up at me in awe. I could repay every ounce of humiliation I'd suffered tenfold, but something deep within my soul resisted. I had just barely clawed my way out of one twisted nightmare. I had zero desire to dive headfirst into another relationship likely built on cold calculation and transactional convenience, even if this one appeared to be premium grade. I appreciate the offer, President Gio, I said, keeping my tone respectful yet firmly distant. But there are some things I need to achieve on my own. With that, I turned to walk out. Jishikin didn't try to stop me. But just as I pulled the door open, I heard her let out a soft low hum. I couldn't tell if it was out of irritation or genuine admiration. That very afternoon, news of the Lee Group's CEO Lee Ching-hei and her wedding of the century to her assistant Shu Baili began to saturate every corner of the media and various social platforms. The press releases were written to sound impossibly lavish and romantic. Childhood sweethearts finally unite in bliss. The young prodigy guarding his moonlight goddess. The CEO's true love conquers all obstacles. The headlines were as nauseatingly cheesy as possible, crafted specifically to bury the previous scandals under layers of lies. Everyone seemed to have made a silent pact to forget that just a mere heartbeat ago, Lee Ching-hei's legal husband was me. It's hardly surprising considering all those years I spent at the Lee Group, portrayed as nothing more than a blurry, nondescript assistant. Lee Ching-hei snatched all the glory, while I was forced to take every fall. In the eyes of the masses, I was likely just a background character, a temporary roadblock destined to be cleared by true love. Inside the Lee Group's employee group chat, the notifications were exploding like a powder keg. Everyone was obsessively gossiping about this impending extravagant circus of a wedding. They praised Xu Beili for finally winning, celebrating his ascent into the light, while mocking me as the gold digger who lost to true love. I watched those messages scroll by at lightning speed, yet my heart remained completely undisturbed. Honestly, I almost felt like laughing. The place I once considered my home had in reality never truly accepted me. As I was leaving work that evening, Li Qinghei called again from yet another burner number. Her voice sounded slightly hoarse, yet her tone still carried that insufferable regal arrogance. Luo Mingxuan, it's not too late to regret your choices. Without me and the Li Group backing you, you'll never survive in this industry. If you just come back now, I'm willing to overlook everything that happened. I'll even handle the situation with Xu Beili. I couldn't suppress a cold mocking laugh. Even now, at this late stage, she actually had the audacity to say something so delusional. She wanted me to return, to smile and accept her child with Xu Beili, to continue being the silent martyr working in her shadow, all while wearing a bright green hat of betrayal. Don't bother, I replied, my voice dripping with frost. CEO Li should focus on preparing her wedding of the century. I wish you and Assistant Xu a long life together, and a bond that never breaks. Luo Mingxuan, I didn't wait for her to finish. I hung up and blocked her in one seamless motion. As I exited the corporate headquarters, my eyes immediately locked onto that familiar flashy red sports car idling at the curb. It was Li Qinghei's vehicle. Xu Beili was leaning against the hood, and the second he saw me, he swaggered over, with a sickeningly fake smirk. Mr. Luo, long time no see. How have you been? He deliberately spat out the title Mr. Luo with heavy emphasis, dripping with pure mockery. Honestly, I really should thank you for stepping aside. Without your generous exit, Qinghei and I wouldn't be tying the knot this soon. I stared at him with an expressionless, icy gaze. Are we even on speaking terms? Xu Beili's face stiffened for a split second, but he quickly regained his composure, adopting a patronizing, magnanimous facade. Let's just let bygones be bygones. I didn't come here to pick a fight today. On the 3rd of next month, Qinghei and I are getting married, and we'd love for you to attend. After all, you're a significant part of her history. The 3rd of next month. My eyebrows twitched slightly at the date. That was the scheduled final round of funding for the Lee Group, the critical milestone for their planned IPO. Choosing that specific day to get married was a desperate attempt at a double celebration, using the wedding joy to mask their recent scandals and artificially boost market confidence. I arched an eyebrow. Well then, congratulations are in order. A glint of smug triumph flashed in Xu Beili's eyes. He continued in an intentionally boastful tone. Sigh, I personally thought a simple ceremony would suffice. But Qinghei absolutely wouldn't hear of it. She says she won't allow any regrets in our love story. The guest list includes every elite socialite in the city, and Qinghei even plans to rent out the massive LED screen at Times Square in the heart of downtown. For the entire day, it will loop our wedding photos and our romance saga, letting the whole world witness our ultimate bliss. I nodded slowly, my gaze following the direction of his pointing finger, turning toward the distance, at the colossal screen atop the city's tallest skyscraper. I know the exorbitant rental fee for that screen. It costs 6 figures per hour. Li Qinghei is truly going all out this time. That sounds lovely. I wish you both great success. My tone remained indifferent. Look, quickly isn't that? Xu Beili suddenly pointed toward the massive display with excitement. I turned my head to look, and sure enough, the colossal screen flickered, switching to a festive celebratory wedding-themed visual accompanied by massive stylized typography. But in the next second, both Xu Beili and I froze. The name blazing across the screen was Ji Shiqin. Immediately after, a smaller line of text appeared, cordially inviting all close friends and family to witness the engagement of myself and Mr. Luo Mingxuan. I stood rooted to the spot, staring at that crystal clear sentence on the screen as my mind went completely blank for a moment. Ji Shiqin and I, an engagement. Not long ago, I had just rejected her transactional proposal in the office, and now on the city's most expensive and high-profile billboard, she had unilaterally announced our betrothal. This woman truly plays by her own set of rules. Beside me, Xu Beili's expression instantly became incredibly hideous. Shifting from smug bragging to stunned disbelief took less than 3 seconds. He clearly hadn't anticipated that the very battlefield he intended to use for showing off would be hijacked and conquered by Ji Shiqin. And the protagonist was the very man he just ridiculed me. That Ji Shiqin? Xu Beili's face turned a violent shade of red as he stammered out a weak protest. This is absolutely nonsensical. Even if our families are collaborating, she shouldn't be clout chasing like this, right? The news of my wedding with Qinghei hasn't even been officially released yet. I looked at him as if he were a complete idiot. Are you suggesting President Ji announce her own marriage just to ride the coattails of your and Li Qinghei's non-existent wedding hype? Subeli grew visibly rattled under my scrutiny, but he doubled down with forced conviction. Otherwise, why the hell would she drop this announcement now? And why specifically mention you? She obviously knew Qinghe and I were going public, so she sniped our moment just to spite us. I could only marvel at how the ignorant are not only fearless, but also prone to the most delusional hallucinations. As if Li Qinghe is even relevant enough for Jishikin to clout chase. I was done wasting words on this clown. So I left him standing there and headed for the subway. The moment I got home, my phone began vibrating nonstop. Earlier, the Lee Group's employee chat had completely imploded. Messages were flying by in the thousands. Holy crap, President G is getting hitched. Who's the lucky groom? Luo Mingxuan? Which Luo Mingxuan? Is it the same guy we all know? No way, that's impossible. Why would someone like Ji Shiqin settle for him? It's definitely a strategic business marriage. President G is just doing this to crush the Lee Group. Whatever the reason, Luo Mingxuan just hit the ultimate jackpot. Shock skepticism, jealousy, and wild rumors exploded within the group. A golden girl like Ji Shiqin, young, stunningly beautiful, and wielding immense corporate power, was the ultimate dream partner for any elite family. For her to suddenly announce her engagement, especially to a man who was just recently kicked out like a stray dog, was nothing short of a nuclear bombshell. As I was scrolling through the chaos, an incoming call flashed on my screen. The name Ji Shiqin danced across the display. I picked up, and her light, slightly playful voice echoed through the line. Well, how do you like the official announcement? My dear fiancé, I rubbed my throbbing temples in frustration. President G, I told you this joke has gone way too far. It's going to cause me a mountain of unnecessary trouble. Who said anything about a joke? Ji Shiqin's tone shifted, becoming uncharacteristically earnest. Luo Mingxuan, let me tell you something. The only reason I ever agreed to partner with the Lee Group was because I saw your true potential. I honestly don't get how a man as exceptional as you could ever stand to live such a humiliated existence under Li Qinghe. Here we go again. I didn't want to dwell on this topic. President G, the gap between us is far too wide. You are the precious jewel of the G family, while I'm just an ordinary man. It could never work between us. Ji Shiqin let out a melodious laugh on the other end, her voice crisp and clear. What era are you living in? Still clinging to those archaic notions of matching social status, clinging to those fossilized traditions. What I admire is your sheer competence, your character, and you as a person. When I set my sights on something, I make it mine. Her tone carried an innate sense of dominance and absolute confidence. Come to my office tomorrow, or I'll show up at your doorstep right now. We need to sit down and properly hash out the specific details of our upcoming nuptials. I knew once this woman made up her mind, she was immovable. Rather than having her actually hunt me down at midnight, let's make it tomorrow. I let out a weary sigh. Coward, Ji Shiqin muttered playfully, before hanging up with an air of satisfaction. I stared at the darkened screen of my phone. Glancing out the window at the distant glowing billboard, my emotions a tangled mess. I knew that from this exact moment, my life had completely spiraled off its original tracks, veering toward a destination that was entirely unknown. As for Li Qinghe and Shu Baili, their meticulously staged wedding of the century hadn't even begun yet, but their spotlight had already been ruthlessly snatched away. This night was destined to be a sleepless one for many. The following morning, I arrived at the office sporting two very obvious dark circles. Ji Shiqin's assistants seemed to have received very specific instructions. The moment they spotted me, their eyes brimmed with subtle smirks and inquisitive glints as they ushered me straight to the CEO's office. Pushing open the heavy wooden doors, I found Ji Shiqin lounging lazily on the sofa in the reception area. She was draped in a champagne-colored silk blouse today, her long hair falling in soft waves, looking slightly less sharp and aggressive than usual, radiating a touch more feminine grace. Seeing me, she sat upright and teased, "Oh my. What happened to my dear fiancé? So excited to marry me that you couldn't sleep a wink." I let out a helpless, weary sigh, now fully immune to her constant bantering. Why, I asked, sitting across from her, getting straight to the point. The money burned on that screen is enough for an average person to live on for a lifetime. Just to spite Li Qinghe? Was it worth it? Ji Shiqin tilted her head, looking like a sly cat. Not much, just about $1 million. The corner of my mouth twitched. $1 million just to display our names for a single night. Worried about the cost? She smirked. Relax. That building is one of my father's properties. The rental fee is just moving money from one pocket to another. So the minor heart attack I had over her spending was completely and utterly unnecessary. Alright, let's get down to business. Ji Shiqin leaned forward, locking eyes with me. A lowly assistant managed to climb over your head, usurp your position, and then flaunt a grand wedding in your face. Luo Mingxuan, can you really stomach such an insult? I simply shrugged my shoulders. I was the one blind enough to trust the wrong person. I don't care about that. Ji Shiqin waved it off, her expression hardening with an unquestionable will. My fiancé cannot be trampled underfoot by scum like him. Since he made your life miserable, I'm going to make sure he and the woman backing him feel 10 times worse. Her expression was deadly serious, laced with a hint of almost childish stubbornness. It suddenly occurred to me that maybe she wasn't just doing this to get back at Li Qinghe. Perhaps she truly wanted to avenge the injustice done to me. I need some time, I stated firmly. I can't just crawl out of a relationship that left me scarred and broken, only to dive immediately into another commitment, even if it's a complete sham. No problem, Jishikin agreed with surprising speed, her eyes shimmering with an adventurous spark. I've booked that screen for an entire month. That should be plenty of time for you to prepare right. Seeing our engagement announcement every single day, doesn't that feel grandly ceremonial? I was rendered speechless yet again. Booking it for a month, even if free, is a terrifying level of ostentation. Isn't this a bit overkill? I attempted one final futile protest. Jishikin flashed a nonchalant grin. Not even close. I want every soul in this city to understand that Luo Mingxuan is now Jishikin's man. Li Qinghe isn't even in your league anymore. Watching the fierce, competitive fire dancing in her eyes, I suddenly realized that partnering with a woman like her wasn't such a bitter pill to swallow after all. At the very least, she was direct, transparent, and immensely powerful. Perfect. To become the strongest shield and sword in my counterattack. I took a deep, stabilizing breath, as if finalizing a life-altering pact. I'll do it. We can get married, I said, locking eyes with her. But we need a clear set of ground rules. Name them, Jishikin replied, sitting bolt upright, giving me her undivided attention. First, zero interference with my personal freedom or career. Our relationship cannot become a cage. Second, before the actual ceremony, we are purely partners united by a common goal. If either side wants out in the future, we must be honest and upfront about it. No messy endings, just a clean break. And third, the actual marriage date remains strictly confidential. We keep the specifics shrouded in mystery. Jishikin blinked, processing my demands. The first two are easy, she said. But why the secrecy on the third? I've already announced our engagement to the world. I let a faint cold smirk pull at my lips, a glacial chill flashing through my eyes, to ensure certain people get the surprise of a lifetime. Isn't Li Qinghe absolutely certain that I'd wither away and die without her? And doesn't Xu Beili feel on top of the world for stepping over me to climb up? I want them at their absolute peak, under the brightest, most public spotlight imaginable, to witness the man they once trampled upon, standing at an altitude they can only dream of reaching. I'm going to shatter their hollow pride, right alongside that pathetic wedding of the century, and grind them both into the dirt together. Jishikin scrutinized me for several seconds, before suddenly erupting into laughter. Her smile was radiant and incredibly refreshing. Perfect. I'm all for giving them a taste of their own medicine. Now that's the spirit. She stood up gracefully, extending her hand toward me. To a fruitful partnership. My dear fiancé. I grasped her hand firmly. Her palm was warm and her grip was surprisingly powerful. To a fruitful partnership. Still calling me President G, she arched an eyebrow. Call me Shikin? I corrected myself, though it felt a bit unnatural. Jishikin beamed with pure satisfaction, looking exactly like a child whose prank had just succeeded. Let's move. Where to? I was momentarily dazed. To the Civil Affairs Bureau, obviously. She spoke as if it were common sense. They already got their license. We can't afford to fall behind. Let's handle the legalities first. So everything that follows will be smooth sailing. I was completely floored. This pace, it wasn't just fast. We were on a literal rocket ship. What are you scared? Jishikin looked at me with a provocative glint in her eyes. The arrow was already notched. There was no turning back. I squared my shoulders, suppressing the sheer absurdity of the situation. I smirked back. Scared? Why would I be? I'm certainly not the one losing out on this deal. 20 minutes later, clutching the freshly minted red marriage certificates, we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau building. My entire mind was still stuck in a state of trance. Is this really happening? Am I married? Even if it was strictly a marriage of convenience, in the eyes of the law, I was now the husband of this woman beside me. A legendary socialite with a prestigious background and breathtaking beauty. We were officially a legal couple. Jishikin seemed to sense my disbelief. She waved her marriage certificate in front of me, flashing a sly, cunning grin. What does it feel like you're dreaming? Duh. I nodded honestly. A little. Just get used to it. She tucked the certificate away, pulled open the car door, and hopped inside. Time to show you our newlywed nest. Newlywed nest? I stammered, stunned yet again. Well, obviously. Jishikin slid into the driver's seat and clicked her seatbelt into place, casting a sharp side eye at me through the rearview mirror. How can you have a marriage without a marital home? If we're putting on a show, we have to commit to the bit. Otherwise, how are we supposed to handle those arrogant, high and mighty elders in my family? Her logic was airtight and perfectly justified. I didn't have a single word of rebuttal. The car sped toward the city's prestigious Northern Villa district, finally pulling up before a sleek modern architectural marvel, a secluded standalone villa surrounded by serene scenery. This is the place. Jishikin stepped out and scanned her fingerprint to unlock the gate. I'll have my people transfer the title to your name. Consider it part of your compensation for this partnership. I followed her inside. noticing the meticulously manicured courtyard and the interior's sophisticated minimalist design. The craftsmanship was impeccable, and the furnishings were the pinnacle of comfort. It was clear that an immense amount of effort went into this, yet it wasn't gaudy or pretentious. Instead, it radiated a genuine sense of warmth and home. If there's anything you hate, we can renovate it immediately. Jishikin leaned against the foyer watching my reaction. I actually love it, I replied with total honesty, given it was a luxury residence provided for free. I had absolutely no reason to be picky. After the tour, Jishikin walked toward the exit, suddenly spinning around to squint at me with narrowed eyes, a mischievous, teasing smirk playing on her lips. Now that we've seen the marital home, isn't it about time you took me home to meet your family? I fell silent for several beats before finally speaking. My parents passed away a long time ago. That was the cold hard truth. It was also one of the main reasons why Lee Ching-hei's family felt they could look down on me so easily. My hometown was a small city in the south. My parents died in an accident while I was in college, leaving behind very little in the way of savings, and my relationships with other relatives had long since faded. My only remaining connection was my university mentor, an elderly gentleman who treated me like his own flesh and blood. But later, because Lee Ching-hei despised my association with useless sensitive intellectuals, I had gradually drifted away from my mentor as well. On the other end of the line, Jishikin fell silent for a beat, and then I heard her murmur a soft, "I'm sorry." "It's fine. You didn't know, so there's no blame." I shook my head slowly. "In that case," she mused, "take me to meet your mentor. Since we're officially married now, an elder should at least be informed and bear witness." This time I didn't hesitate. All right. It really was a high time I paid him a visit. I've owed him far too much over these past few years. I accompanied Jishikin to my mentor's residence tucked away in the old city district. After years of absence, my teacher's hair had turned significantly whiter, yet he still radiated a vibrant, hearty energy. He froze in shock the moment he laid eyes on me, before a look of pure, joyful surprise erupted on his face. "Xiao Luo, it's really you. Come in, hurry, get inside." His wife also poked her head out from the kitchen, her apron still dusted with flecks of flour. Upon seeing me, her smile widened into a beaming grin. "Xiao Luo is here. Teacher, mistress, this is my wife Jishikin." I introduced her. The word wife still felt a bit stiff and foreign on my tongue. Jishikin greeted them with perfect, effortless poise. "Hello, teacher." "Hello, mistress, I'm Shikin." She was dressed impeccably for the occasion, wearing subtle natural makeup, and her demeanor was the definition of elegant and refined. The domineering aura she held at the firm was gone, as was the mischievous streak she showed in private. She looked every bit the model of a polite, respectful junior. The mistress's eyes sparkled with delight as she took Jishikin's hand in hers, utterly charmed by what she saw. Good, good, good. What a gorgeous young lady. She's worlds better than the previous one. She trailed off before finishing the sentence, but the implication was crystal clear to everyone. They had never approved of Lee Ching-hei, viewing her as far too arrogant and spoiled, and feeling she never treated me with the care I deserved. Just then, a young woman in casual loungewear, with a chaotic bird's nest of messy hair, emerged from a side room rubbing her eyes. The moment she spotted me, her eyes nearly popped out. "Luo Mingxuan, you heartless, ungrateful jerk. You've been dodging me for years." Her gaze suddenly landed on Jishikin standing beside me, and she froze mid-sentence. Then she let out a piercing shriek. "Shikin, what on earth are you doing here?" Jishikin's eyes widened in total shock. "Ali?" In the next heartbeat, the two women were locked in an embrace, jumping and laughing like maniacs. I stood there completely paralyzed, looking back and forth between them, then at my chuckling teacher and his wife. My brain simply couldn't process the connection. "Teacher," I stammered, pointing toward the woman, who was currently strangling Jishikin with a hug. "That's my daughter, Ali." "Your senior, remember," my teacher laughed. "She's the same age as you. She just started school a year later." "Ali?" It finally clicked. My teacher's only child. A year ahead of me with a wild, eccentric personality, she used to bully me constantly back in our school days. But I had always viewed her as an older sister, though we had drifted apart after graduation. Ali finally released Jishikin, shooting her a mock murderous glare. Then she turned her accusations toward me. "Fine then, Jishikin. We promised to stay single together forever. Yet you went behind my back and abducted my precious little brother Luo Mingxuan. Spill it, did you force him into this?" My face darkened instantly. "Sister Ali, you're being dramatic." Jishikin, however, linked her arm through mine with an innocent expression. She purposefully used a voice so sweet it was sickening. "Sister Ali, Mingxuan and I are soulmates truly in love. There was absolutely no coercion involved. He's my husband now." The way she chirped "Sister Ali" sent a visible shiver down Ali's spine. Her face turned a sickly shade of green as she yelped and scrambled to hide behind her mother. The mistress laughed, ushering us to wash up and eat. At the table, she kept piling food onto Jishikin's plate. Jishikin thanked her gracefully, while naturally placing my favorite dishes into my bowl. "Eat up, hubby," she whispered softly, her eyes brimming with a gentle fake tenderness. My teacher and his wife exchanged a knowing look. beaming with even more profound relief. Ali sat to the side, rolling her eyes so hard they nearly stuck, transforming her tragic frustration into a massive appetite. After the meal, Shikin and I bid the elders farewell, properly breaking the news of our recent marriage to them while strategically omitting the contract part of the deal. The two seniors were grinning from ear to ear, unable to hide their joy, repeatedly urging us to cherish each other and live a good life. Once we hit the street, I exhaled a long, heavy breath. Being around my old mentor always wrapped me in a sense of absolute peace and warmth. "I'll grab a cab back. Drive safely," I said to Jishikin. However, she reached out and gripped my arm firmly, her eyes shimmering with an unreadable complex emotion. "Aren't you coming home with me?" I blanked for a second. "Coming home? To which house?" She gave my arm an annoyed, playful pinch. "Luo Mingxuan, we are legally husband and wife. You've already seen our marital home. Do you really expect me to head back there all alone?" Only then did her true meaning finally click, and a wave of awkwardness washed over me instantly. "I thought that villa was just a stage for the act. I can just head back to my own rental." "That is our home," Shikin insisted with a stubborn glint in her eyes. "Even if this is currently just a partnership, the world will see us as a separated couple if we live apart." Does that sound remotely believable to you? If Li Qinghe or anyone else catches wind of this, our entire performance goes up in smoke. She had a point. A contract marriage is still a marriage. The facade has to be absolutely airtight. "Fine," I conceded. Half an hour later, the car came to a halt in front of the villa's gates. Inside, Jishikin tossed her coat aside and said quite naturally, "You'll take the guest suite tonight. The master bedroom is mine." "Copy that," I said, feeling a surge of relief. This was the ideal setup, plenty of personal space. To avoid any soul-crushing awkwardness, I started heading toward the second floor, with Jishikin walking just a few paces ahead of me. As she reached the threshold of the master suite, she came to an abrupt halt, spinning around to close the distance between us step by step. She tilted her head back slightly, gazing up at me, the warm hallway glow reflected in her stunning eyes, shimmering with an intense fiery brilliance. She scrunched up her dainty nose, her tone laced with a mix of playfulness and curiosity. "Are you really that desperate to sleep in separate rooms? Is my feminine charm truly that lacking?" Jishikin's blunt question left me completely tongue-tied. Her allure was without a doubt undeniable. As the powerhouse at the helm of the G group, she was young, breathtakingly beautiful, and brilliant, a literal goddess to the masses. Even now dressed in loungewear, without a hint of makeup, her raw beauty remained absolutely soul-stirring. "Your charm is beyond question," I replied with total honesty, straining to keep my voice objective and composed. "But we had an agreement. This is strictly a partnership. A marriage on paper only." I attempted to take a step back, trying to create some much-needed breathing room, but my back hit the cold surface of the wall. She narrowed her eyes slightly and leaned in even closer, her warm breath practically grazing against my jawline. "A contract marriage is still a real marriage. Legally, we are husband and wife. Luo Mingxuan, are you actually afraid of me?" Fear, perhaps a little, not of her as a person, but rather the terror of drowning in another complex web, the fear of blurring the lines between truth and fiction, and the dread of repeating past mistakes. "I just think we need a little time to adjust," I managed to say, choosing the most diplomatic excuse. "After all, everything has escalated at lightning speed." Jishikin scrutinized me for several long seconds, before suddenly breaking into a soft laugh. That smile was tinted with a hint of mischief, but carried a fleeting trace of hidden disappointment. "Fine, I'm done teasing you." She took a graceful step back and gave a casual wave of her hand. "The guest room is on the left. The toiletries are all brand new. Good night, my contract husband." "Good night." I practically retreated into the guest suite, hurriedly shutting the door behind me. Leaning against the doorframe, I let out a massive sigh of relief, my heart still thumping erratically in my chest. That night, sleep remained elusive and restless. The unfamiliar surroundings, my bizarre new identity, and that unpredictable woman in the other room kept my nerves strung tight as a wire, drifting in a haze between sleep and wakefulness. I caught the faint click of her bedroom door opening. There were soft, deliberate footsteps, lingering outside my door before quietly fading away. Early the next morning, the aggressive vibration of my phone jolted me awake. It was a text from Jishikin. "Breakfast is in the kitchen. Warm it up yourself. I've already headed to the office. Don't forget the 9 a.m. project department meeting." Her tone was strictly business. I finished my morning routine and headed downstairs. On the island in the open concept kitchen, I found perfectly crisped bacon, sunny side up eggs, and toasted bread. Beside them sat a glass of fresh squeezed orange juice. The food was neatly kept under a warming cover, still radiating a gentle heat to the touch. She actually made this. I was genuinely taken aback. I took a bite, and the flavor was surprisingly professional. At 9 a.m. sharp, I stepped into the G Group's project department conference room. Jishikin was already presiding at the head of the table, buried in a stack of corporate files. She had swapped back into her severe professional attire, with her hair styled into a flawless, sharp look. Once again, she was the formidable, unstoppable CEO. When our eyes met, she gave a curt professional nod. her gaze as calm and steady as a lake. It felt as though the playful woman who had teased me on the stairs last night was nothing more than a fever dream. "Let's begin," she said, cutting straight to the chase. The meeting was intense, focusing primarily on dissecting every detail of the ongoing project with the Lee Group and drafting contingencies for a potential termination, while scouting for alternative strategic partners. As the newly appointed head of the operation, I had to master every nuance at breakneck speed. Jishikin spoke sparingly throughout the session, but every remark she made sliced straight to the bone. I could sense the tension radiating from the veteran directors and senior executives. They weren't exactly thrilled about me being parachuted in. Specifically, that project assistant named Jiang Zhu, her gaze was dripping with blatant, unfiltered contempt. Once the meeting concluded, Jishikin signaled for me to stay behind. "How are you holding up?" She leaned back into her executive chair, her fingers rhythmically tapping against the mahogany desk. "It's a massive influx of data. I'll need a moment to process it all," I replied with total candor. "Furthermore, I've noticed a few people in the department don't seem particularly thrilled to have me here." "Expected," Jishikin said, as if she'd seen it coming. "You're a total outsider, and since I personally installed you here, it's inevitable they think you're just a nepo hire. Especially with that messy history between you and Li Qinghe, word travels fast in these circles." She paused for a beat, her sharp eyes drilling into mine. "Luo Mingxuan, I gave you this seat because I trust your talent. But whether you can keep it and earn their respect, that's entirely on you. The G Group doesn't harbor dead weight, and it certainly doesn't foster men who hide behind women." That might sound harsh, but that's the reality of the game. I nodded in agreement, feeling no resentment at her blunt words. In fact, it made me feel more at ease. She laid the rules out in the open. "Honesty is far better than hidden agendas." "I get it. I'll let my results do the talking." A flicker of approval danced in Jishikin's eyes. "If you need backup, tell me directly. But how you fight this war is your business. I only care about the outcome, one that bleeds the Lee Group dry and leaves the G Group on top." I left her office and headed back to my newly assigned private workspace in the project department. It wasn't massive, but it was perfect. A mountain of project files was already waiting for me. I sat down and cracked open the one on top, the core terms and draft agreement for the collaboration with the Lee Group. Looking at the key data and the division of liability, it was clearly skewed against the G Group. It reeked of Li Qinghe's signature aggression and manipulation. I grabbed a pen and began redlining the document. The first move of my counteroffensive starts right here. Over the following few days, I practically lived in those project data, documents, and archive contracts. I discovered that this venture with the Lee Group looked like a steal for the G Group on the surface, securing a massive project with high potential. But digging into the fine print of the clauses, especially regarding risk sharing and profit distribution, the Lee Group had planted numerous landmines. If the project hit even a minor snag, the G Group would likely bleed out from the losses, while the Lee Group watched safely from the sidelines. This methodology was classic Li Qinghe. Greedy for quick gains, shrewd yet incredibly short-sighted, always trying to hog all the benefits while dumping every ounce of risk onto others. Simultaneously, I discreetly observed the department staff. That assistant Jiang Zhu exhibited the most blatant hostility toward me. Her reports were either perpetually late or riddled with errors. Meanwhile, the department manager, old Zhao, was a slippery veteran who acted polite to my face, but was clearly just waiting to see me fail. On Friday afternoon, I summoned the core team for a progress briefing. Shortly after the meeting commenced, I displayed that problematic draft of clauses directly onto the massive projector screen. Regarding the liability terms in Section 3 and the profit model in Appendix B, I'd like to hear everyone's professional take. My tone was deceptively calm. Silence hung heavy in the room for several seconds. Old Zhao cleared his throat and spoke up. "Mr. Luo, this draft was finalized after over 10 rounds of grueling negotiations with the Lee Group. President Lee was extremely unyielding. We believe that under the current market climate, getting them to concede this much is already considered a stellar victory." Jiang Zhu immediately chimed in. "Exactly. Mr. Luo, you're new, so you might not fully grasp the situation. The Lee Group has massive leverage in this industry. Securing this partnership was a win in itself. There's no need to nitpick over minor details." The others nodded in synchronized agreement, clearly thinking I was just being pedantic and didn't understand how things worked. I let out a faint smirk, refraining from an immediate rebuttal. Instead, I pulled up a fresh set of analytics, alongside several standard industry contract templates. "Manager Zhao, Assistant Jiang, and the rest of you take a look." I pointed the laser at the screen. According to current industry benchmarks, for projects where technical risk exceeds 60%, the risk-sharing ratio for the investor is typically capped at no more than 30%. Yet, in this draft, the G Group is saddled with 45%. Now look at the profit distribution model. The growth rate projections it relies on are nearly double the industry average. If the actual growth fails to meet these pipe dreams, calculations based on this specific model prove that the G Group's massive initial capital injection might not even break even within 5 years. Meanwhile, the Lee Group, can leverage tech licensing and brand royalties to lock in their profits ahead of time. I paused for a beat, my gaze sweeping over their rapidly pale faces. These aren't minor details. These are fundamental issues of principle. Collaborating under these exploitative terms isn't expanding our market share. It's essentially working as a slave for the Li Group. Simultaneously, it leaves the G Group exposed to catastrophic financial risk. The conference room fell into a deathly silence. Old Zhao began to break into a cold sweat, while Jiang Zhu bit her lip, her face completely drained of color. Back when I was with the Li Group, I was part of the initial feasibility study for this project. I continued dropping another tactical bombshell. Their internal assessment of technical stability is nowhere near as optimistic as their public claims. Li Qinghe is desperate to drag the G Group into this, not for a mutually beneficial partnership, but because she needs a deep-pocketed scapegoat to shoulder the fallout of her own reckless blind expansion. My words, backed by concrete data and unassailable logic, completely paralyzed everyone in the room. The way they looked at me shifted, from initial disdain and skepticism, gradually transforming into pure shock and deep contemplation. Therefore, I concluded this draft must be overhauled. Not minor tweaks or superficial patches, but a complete scorched earth rebuild. We need to reevaluate every risk factor and establish a framework of equal cooperation. And if the Li Group refuses to accept it, I scanned the faces of everyone in the room, letting the final words sink in, then we terminate the partnership. The G Group isn't desperate for projects, and we certainly aren't lacking in spine. We will not jeopardize our future for a shiny facade, only to serve as someone else's stepping stone and risk buffer. Old Zhao was the first to snap back to reality. Wiping his brow, he stammered, "Mr. Luo's analysis is surgical. Our previous assessment was indeed negligent. We were being led by the nose by the Li Group. I'll organize a team immediately to redraft the terms." The rest of the room echoed their support. Only Jiang Zhu remained with her head down, fingers gripping her pen so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Shortly after returning to my office post-meeting, a subtle rhythmic tapping came from the door. "Enter." The door swung open. Jishikin leaned against the frame, a playful half-smirking expression on her face. "I heard you just held a masterclass in the conference room and completely paralyzed those corporate old-timers." She sauntered in, casually closing the door behind her. I simply presented the facts and used logic. I poured her a glass of water. Jishikin accepted the glass, but didn't drink, her eyes fixed on me, glittering with intensity. "Do you realize that old Zhao and his team chased that draft for 3 months, without ever spotting the fatal flaws? You've been here a few days and already tore it to shreds." "I'm just looking at things from the G Group's perspective," I replied. During those years at the Li Group, I became all too familiar with Li Qinghei's playbook. The outsider sees the game most clearly. That is precisely your value. Jishikin set the glass down, her tone turning deadly serious. "Luo Mingxuan, I need your help, and not just for this single project. Within the G Group, there are far too many like old Zhao, complacent people who are terrified of offending big clients. The situation with Li Qinghei is a prime opportunity. I want to use your hand to whip these people into shape and show everyone exactly what the G Group's standards are." I instantly grasped her true intention. She didn't just want me to crush the Li Group commercially. She wanted me to set a brand new internal benchmark, eradicating the toxic work culture within the corporation. "The pressure will be immense," I warned her. "I'm aware," Shikin replied with a smirk, her expression radiating absolute trust and anticipation. "But I know for a fact you can handle the heat. Don't forget you've got a powerful backer now." Her words carried a heavy double name. "Even hope sobo. Mean tensioning. Yes, you say a dictated eating at Kisiko." As I looked into her shimmering eyes, I suddenly felt that fighting by her side might actually be a thrilling ride. "Oh, by the way," Jishikin paused at the door, turning back as if she'd just remembered something. "Come home with me tonight. My parents heard about the wedding and are dying to meet their son-in-law. We have to commit to the performance." That evening, Shikin drove us to the Ji family's ancestral estate, a majestic mountainside villa located in the west of the city. The grounds were sprawling, wrapped in a tranquil silence, exuding a legacy of old money and understated luxury. It was a world apart from the trendy, modern apartments that Li Qinghei favored. Before we stepped through the entrance, Jishikin naturally linked her arm with mine. "Just relax," she whispered as a reminder. "My parents aren't literal monsters. If they ask how we met or why we rushed into marriage so quickly, tell them we fell for each other during a business venture, realized we were perfect matches, and things just clicked. I gave a silent nod, taking a deep breath to steady my nerves. The man who opened the door was the G family butler, an elderly man with silver hair and a perfectly meticulous demeanor. He greeted Shikin with a respectful bow. "Welcome home, miss." Then his gaze shifted toward me, scanning me with a sharp, discerning look. "Uncle Pho, this is my husband Luo Mingxuan," Shikin introduced, her voice dripping with feigned intimacy. "Welcome, Mr. Luo." Uncle Fu bowed deeply, his etiquette absolutely flawless. Yet that palpable sense of professional distance remained. Stepping into the lavish living room, a middle-aged couple sat poised on the sofa. The man wore sophisticated high-end loungewear and was focused on his newspaper through spectacles. He radiated an aura of refined, unshakable composure. The woman was impeccably preserved, clad in a perfectly tailored kipayo, exuding elegance. These were Ji Shikin's parents, the true architects behind the Ji Empire. "Dad, Mom, we're home." Ji Shikin released my arm and glided over, taking a seat beside her mother, with a rare affectionate tone. Her mother grasped her hand, but her gaze immediately drifted toward me, scanning me from head to toe. With a warm smile, she spoke. "So this must be Xiao Luo. Come, don't be a stranger. Sit down." The patriarch set aside his paper and removed his glasses, casting a calm, steady look in my direction. His eyes weren't overtly sharp, yet they possessed a penetrating power that saw through everything, making me instinctively straighten my posture. "Greetings, sir, madam." I approached them with a polite bow, presenting the carefully curated gift, a master-crafted purple clay tea set to her mother. "Shikin mentioned that you enjoy fine tea, sir. Just a small token of my respect." Shikin had picked the gift perfectly. It was highly appropriate. Her father glanced at the set, his expression softening slightly. "Thoughtful. Thank you. Sit." Throughout the ensuing dinner, the atmosphere was far more relaxed than I had anticipated. Ji's mother was quite the conversationalist, inquiring about my fundamental background and my previous professional milestones. Regarding my sordid history with Li Qinghe, she seemed to have already been briefed, choosing not to pry into the messy details. She simply sighed, noting that the youth often misjudged character. Ji's father spoke sparingly, but every question he posed cut straight to the core. Like my perspective on current industry shifts, my risk assessment of the Geely partnership, and he even hit me with a highly technical query regarding the mechanics of cross-border capital operations. I formulated my responses with extreme caution, refusing to exaggerate or evade, keeping my answers grounded in hard facts and personal insight. I could feel my father-in-law dissecting me, not merely as a candidate for his daughter's hand, but as a potential elite talent, capable of penetrating the inner sanctum of the G group. Ji Shikin chimed in periodically from the side, deftly steering the conversation away from pitfalls or offering supplementary details for my sake, playing the role of a protective doting wife to perfection. After dinner, her father invited me to the study for tea. The study was cavernous, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lining two massive walls, perfumed by the faint scent of old paper and fine cigars. His movements as he brewed the tea were practiced and fluid. The air was quiet. Shikin has been headstrong and independent since childhood, and her standards have always been sky-high. He began slowly, his voice low and measured, as he slid a cup of clear tea toward me. "When she suddenly announced her marriage, and that the groom was you, I found myself genuinely taken aback. I lifted the teacup in silence, knowing the true message was yet to come. But if she chose you, I'm sure she has her reasons." His tone shifted instantly, his deep, soulful eyes locking onto mine. "Luo Mingxuan, I looked into your years at the Li Group. You possess undeniable talent and the necessary grit to endure. But your heart is far too soft, far too sentimental. In the cutthroat world of business, that is a fatal flaw." A chill ran down my spine. As expected, absolutely nothing escaped his notice. What happened with Li Qinghe was a harsh lesson, but consider it a trial by fire. He took a slow sip of his tea. "Shikin chose you, perhaps because she saw the depth of character you gained after hitting rock bottom and your newfound immunity to betrayal and manipulation." He let out a small knowing chuckle, one that carried the weight of a seasoned veteran. Being the son-in-law of the G family is no easy task. The pressure, the temptations, and the knives in the dark are far more numerous than you imagine. Shikin has a forceful personality. She is bound to make enemies, and she needs someone who can stand firm beside her, someone who can actually hold the fort. My meeting with you today isn't about giving you my blessing or making promises. Her father's tone sharpened with gravitas. I'm telling you that once you cross the G threshold, you are officially a part of this family. When we thrive together. When we fall together. You and Shikin are husband and wife. But more importantly, you are allies. The path ahead is yours to blaze side by side. I don't care what the catalyst for this marriage was. He said, his gaze piercing through me like a saw. But my hope is that you can cultivate this union into a genuine and unbreakable alliance. This isn't just for the sake of the G family. It's for your own survival. These heart-to-heart words carried the weight of a mountain. He didn't treat me like some gold-digging social climber to be humiliated. Instead, speaking as the captain of the ship, he was entrusting me with responsibility and expectation. I understand, father. I set down my teacup, responding with absolute solemnity, I will give it my everything. Exiting the study, I found Jishikin waiting in the corridor, scanning my face with visible anxiety. Did my dad give you a hard time? Not at all, I replied with a slow shake of my head. It was a very profound conversation. Jishikin let out a visible breath of relief and hooked her arm through mine. That's good. My parents are actually quite easygoing. They just come off as a bit intense at first. Come on, let's go home. On the drive back, I watched the city lights blur past the window, my mind a chaotic swirl of emotions. Her father's words continued to echo in my ears. This marriage born of contracts and cold revenge seemed to be spiraling into a much vaster, more dangerously real vortex, and for me there was no turning back. Word that the G Group intended to renegotiate the project terms reached Lee Ching-hei's ears at lightning speed. Her reaction was even more explosive than I had anticipated. The following morning, I was ambushed by her right at the company entrance. Having not seen her for a few days, she appeared significantly more haggard. The dark circles under her eyes were heavy, yet the fury in her gaze burned with a savage intensity. Luo Mingxuan, are you the one pulling the strings? She lunged forward, clawing at my arm, her nails practically sinking into my flesh. That contract draft was scrutinized by legal teams on both sides. By what right do you suddenly demand changes? Are you intentionally trying to sabotage my project? Trying to ruin the Lee Group? I forcefully wrenched my arm back, staring at her with icy composure. President Lee, mind your surroundings and your tongue. The decision to reevaluate the partnership terms is a standard business move rooted in professional judgment and rigorous risk management. If you have objections to the clauses, have your team bring their data and arguments to the negotiating table. Throwing a tantrum here solves absolutely nothing. Professional judgment, risk management. Lee Ching-hei reacted as if she'd heard a hilarious joke, her voice reaching a shrill pitch. Luo Mingxuan, drop the act. This is pure unadulterated revenge. You're bitter because I'm with Bai Li, so you're using these pathetic underhanded tactics. Aren't you afraid of becoming the industry's laughingstock? Underhanded tactics. I smirked, though the warmth never reached my eyes. Lee Ching-hei, let's talk about who's truly pathetic here. Is it the one planting landmines in a partnership contract, treating their associates like brainless cash cows? Or the one who cheated behind her husband's back, got knocked up by another man, and then demanded her ex-husband leave with nothing? My words cut through the air like a serrated blade. Lee Ching-hei's face turned deathly pale in an instant, her lips trembling violently, completely robbed of any retort. Passers-by began to slow their pace, casting curious, lingering glances our way. As for revenge, I took a predatory step closer to her, lowering my voice to a lethal whisper, to ensure only she could hear, you're dead wrong. I'm not trying to get revenge on you. I'm simply executing the job I was hired to do. Lee Ching-hei, you are no longer the person who holds the power to dictate my emotions, your feelings, your precious projects, your entire company. As far as I'm concerned now, they are just business entities requiring an objective audit. Nothing more, nothing less. These words stung far worse than any direct insult could. Her eyes widened to the size of saucers, overflowing with pure unadulterated disbelief and the crushing weight of total humiliation. She had always assumed I'd be a wreck without her, living a life of miserable, broken poverty, drowning in a sea of endless regret. It never once crossed her mind that I could actually be this composed, purging her from my world with such clinical precision, relegating her to a mere irrelevant statistic. Luo Mingxuan, how could you? Her voice began to tremble violently, cracking with a sob. After all the years we shared, do you truly have zero nostalgia for our past? This project is everything to me. The Lee Group is desperate. Ugh, here we go again. Playing the sentimental X card, acting weak just to weaponize my pity. President Lee, I cut her off, my tone strictly corporate. Past feelings are private, projects are business. If the Lee Group truly values this partnership, then show some actual sincerity and professionalism by preparing for a total renegotiation. The G Group's doors are wide open to any qualified partner. But if you're only looking to hijack business decisions with emotional blackmail, then I'm sorry, but we're done here. I didn't stick around to watch her face contort in fury, turning my back and stepping into the corporate lobby. Reflected in the shimmering glass of the curtain wall, I saw Lee Ching-hei frozen on the spot for an eternity until a frantic Su Bailey finally arrived to drag her away. Bailey's expression was equally hideous. While pulling Lee Ching-hei back, he shot a venomous, resentful glare toward the building. Back in the safety of my office, I immediately summoned the project task force and issued a set of lethal, crystal-clear directives. Within 1 week, I want a draft framework that favors the G Group's interests. Simultaneously initiate the preliminary contact and evaluation for alternative partners. We must be prepared for any outcome, I told Old Zhao and the team. Negotiating with the Lee Group will be a brutal war. Lee Ching-hei won't surrender her leverage easily. We need to make her realize that she is not indispensable to us. Only by applying genuine crushing pressure will we extract the terms we actually want. After the last meeting, old Zhao and the others were finally starting to respect my authority. They immediately scrambled to execute my orders. Over the next few days, the Li group naturally began making desperate moves. Li Qinghe personally called Ji Shiqin multiple times, her tone shifting from aggressive to pathetically pleading, hoping to bypass me and apply pressure from the top. But Ji Shiqin remained an immovable fortress. With a cold, Luo Mingxuan has full authority over this project. I defer to him. She shut every attempt down. Li Qinghe then tried to leverage mutual business connections to plead her case, even dragging her father into it. But regarding the patriarch, whatever groundwork Shiqin had laid worked perfectly, as he maintained a deafening silence. Meanwhile, I instructed my subordinates to leak rumors that the Ji Group was scouting other technical providers. Gossip spread like wildfire through the industry that the partnership with Li was on the verge of collapse. For the Li Group currently in a critical pre-IPO phase and starved for positive news to stimulate investors. This was a catastrophic blow. I could easily picture Li Qinghe's current state of absolute chaos. Not only was she facing immense pressure from the board and shareholders, but she also had to manage Xu Beili, that incompetent, worthless excuse for a husband. Word on the street was that Xu Beili was aggressively trying to seize power at Li Group, making a complete laughingstock of himself in the process. But that was still not enough. On Friday afternoon, I received a call from President Li of the Li Group, the very same one whose hotel deal I had sabotaged. The same one from that disastrous signing. Brother Luo, you've certainly been making waves lately. President Li's booming laughter echoed through the phone. I hear you've got that Li Qinghe girl backed into a corner. You flatter me, President Li, I replied with polished politeness. Just doing my job. Ha, doing your job? I love it. President Li's tone shifted. Listen, kid, you showed real integrity last time, keeping me from blindly leaping into that pit. Old Li doesn't forget a favor like that. Our group is launching a fresh sector, and we're scouting for a solid partner. Your vision is sharp, and your execution is flawless. Are you interested in a little sit-down? Consider it me returning the favor. My heart skipped a beat. The Li Corporation's influence far eclipsed Li Qinghe's family. If I could secure this connection, it would be the ultimate leverage against Li Qinghe and a golden opportunity for the G Group's future. It was a massive, undeniable win. I'm honored, President Li. I'm definitely interested. When would be convenient for you? Let's say tomorrow. Come hit some balls at my private club. We'll grab a casual bite and talk strategy. After hanging up, I took a moment to reflect, then dialed Ji Shiqin on the internal line. Shiqin, President Li invited me to talk shop over golf tomorrow. Care to join me? On the other end of the line, Ji Shiqin seemed to hesitate for a split second, before her voice returned with a playful lilt. Mr. Luo, is this your way of introducing me to the big players? President Li is a notorious old fox in this industry. Can you really handle him on your own? That's exactly why I need President Ji to back me up. I let my guard down as well. Deal. Deal, Shiqin agreed without a second thought. My schedule happens to be clear tomorrow. Oh, and dress casually. Old Li has quite a few quirks, got it. Setting the phone down, I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the chaotic surge of city traffic below. Li Qinghe, this is merely the opening act. The real storm meant for you hasn't even arrived. As for the alliance between Ji Shiqin and me, this marriage born of a cold, calculated contract seems to be sparking a strange chemistry during these moments of fighting side by side. I'm still uncertain of what the future holds, but one thing is absolutely clear. I've embarked on a path to finally bury my past, and for the first time, I'm not walking it alone.